Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by Nintendon to give our early thoughts on Kirby Star Allies after our playtime with the full version. So, Don, without getting too much into review territory, how have you been enjoying Kirby on the Switch so far?
I've been enjoying it quite a lot, I would say. With the caveat that I don't think it's too hard playing it alone. I'm playing it a lot with friends the last couple of days, and we're having a really good time playing through it. But every time I play it alone, I have the feeling that there's something missing, and I feel the thing that's missing a bit from me is a substantial amount of challenge. And I don't necessarily think it's that bad, especially in comparison to the more single-player focused games that we had as of late with the Wii one and the games on 3DS. You're sort of taken aback by how much better it actually is in multiplayer.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to play the multiplayer yet. I'm hoping to fix that this week and get some actual playtime in. And I'm curious to see how that goes, because the thing is, it's perfectly possible to go into these bosses on your own, but some of the later ones, they definitely feel like you'll be in trouble if you try to take them on by yourself without any allies. But if you have your allies with you, it can make it a little bit too easy in some cases. So it's kind of tricky to find that balance, and I can kind of see how having allies with you or actual friends with you playing along would make the experience just that much better. I mean, it is perfectly playable on your own. The AI is really smart for all intents and purposes.
A little bit too smart, I would say. I think that's the main issue, especially with bosses. I would say they help you a little bit too much, because they basically just home in on the bosses. They see a boss and just walk up to it. You immediately noticed with Wispy Woods, they just walk up to it and it was down within a minute. It's like, okay,
oh, that's
up to
over.
The next level, I guess.
Yeah.
So I've had that problem a lot. Another interesting issue I had is sometimes I want to recruit a different enemy as an ally, so throwing a heart at them. But before I got the chance to do that, my CPU buddies already killed him.
Yeah, I've had that happen a lot too. It hasn't become too much of an issue. Like, it's like, well, it's just the way it goes. But then there's other ones, like, for some reason it feels like, I don't know if you've encountered this, but Dribbly seems to be the dumbest partner, because I have stuck my hand up in the air like, hey, give me a water power, Dribbly, get over here and give me my water power, and he will not do it.
I never had that problem exactly, so that's quite interesting to hear, really.
I only really noticed it with Dribbly. Every other one was really on the ball, but he takes forever.
I had it with the Parasol Waddle Dee. The first time I had to do a puzzle with him, he was like, "What am I doing?" It's like, "You have to go here." "What am I doing?" "No, do this." Come on. So maybe that just happens with different AI allies, I guess.
Maybe.
But I had that with the Parasol Waddle Dee in a specific level.
Yeah, I think I know which area you're talking about. It's when you're blocking the two different drainage pipes.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know enough to walk from one to the other as the fuse is going. So you gotta, basically what I did was just recruited another Parasol Waddle Dee and like, okay, you here, let's do this.
Right. What I ended up doing is just taking the power myself and just add another ally to it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing where it's really smart in some cases and kind of what you'd expect in others, where it gets a little frustrating. But I do want to try out the multiplayer and just see how much of a difference that makes when you're playing with friends. The other thing, though, is how are you enjoying just the actual combinations?
I think the combinations are great. I think that side of it is really interesting. Like, it has been a while since we've seen that type of stuff, because it has really been since, I would say, Kirby 64, since we have seen real combinations in that specific fashion. And I really like it. I like it a lot. Especially the things that you, for example, can combine with the sword is amazing. And then adding, for example, the psychic powers to it is really fun with To the Rock. There's some really fun combinations there that I really, really like.
Yeah, absolutely. There are... It's definitely impressive just seeing how many different combinations you can get from the sheer amount of abilities available. And it just feels very good. Always doing something a little new. It's like, oh, I want to change this up, or I want to do this thing, and it actually works. And the thing that I really like about this game that I don't believe Kirby games have done in the past is the elements actually matter. You got a guy on fire, and you can take care of him so much faster with a water or ice element attached to whatever you might be using than just attacking him normally, or even worse, attacking him with the element they already have. It's possible, but it's so much quicker and more efficient to do it the other way, and I like that little bit of detail.
Yeah, it goes way quicker by if you know exactly which element to use. But at the end of the day, I didn't really had an issue either way, but it just made the progress a tiny bit easier.
I didn't really mention this in my preview, but I do want to mention it to you with you. I kind of love the world maps in this game.
Oh yeah, the world maps are the thing I honestly think is the best part about this game. They've really spent a lot of time thinking it through what to make these worlds special. And I think the levels themselves and how they are detailed are really nice as well. There are absolutely some great stuff in there, regardless of how you look of it, because I would say the first world is sort of the weakest in that regard, because it has mostly the same type of area. But once you get to the second and the third world, it really ramps up and tries to go in various different directions. Especially the second world is really, really good in that regard. Every level feels very different from one another, and the way it builds is super engaging.
Absolutely. There's just a really great sense of progression to it as you see yourself going through these sections of the world, and there's, not a lot to really explore or see on the world map, but just the way they're constructed really does hit home how expansive this can be, and where you can see all the level layouts and stuff working out, and it's a lot of fun. And a lot different from how I expected it to be based on the preview footage of just that little bit of World 1 that we've seen. So I've really enjoyed that, and just seeing how they've gone beyond. And another thing that stands out is I do really like the new powers, the new powers this time around.
Yeah, especially the friend powers are really fun. I think using the train and the circle ones are just ridiculous. The train is just... You all move in the exact same line and can climb up walls a little bit like how Yoshi did in certain games. But then you do it all together. It's sort of funny looking. I think it's even better with the circle, because you're moving together like a slope or across a field, and try to time your jumps perfectly to get through a certain section of a stage. It's actually really enjoyable. Once again, nothing too challenging, and I would say it's less interesting from a multiplayer perspective, but it's a nice bits of fluff, I would say, at the very least.
Yeah, it changes things up, gives you a few set pieces, doing something a little different. Like they got the friend bridge where you can help certain one of those characters that carry the keys around. That's usually where the puzzle gets involved, just like a guide to the proper door. And I like the just visual element of, okay, how do I get there to that point? Okay, let's do that, and figuring that part out. It's never too challenging, but it's using at least a little bit of brain power, because the one thing about levels that I was surprised to see was the lack of collectibles based, especially compared to the previous 3 Kirby games, the mainline titles.
Yeah,
because rather than having like 3 of something and if you collect them all you get an extra level or something like that, instead it's all about here's this one big puzzle piece, and maybe sometimes there's a hidden switch to unlock a level, and that leads to less exploration.
Yeah, I think that's where it really shows that's almost solely a multiplayer game, and why I kind of dislike it as a single player game. Because as a single player game, there's not much to do outside of just traveling through the level. because there's a little bit more downtime between sections once you go through a door and you have a little bit of a loading screen. Like, the first screen that you see is kind of empty until you move a little forward with Kirby. Where in the 3DS games, and even to an extent in the Wii one, like, every screen instantly had density.
Yeah, there's something to do, something to see, and I can see where you're coming from with that. So I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about that one, but it is interesting how they sort of balance this out. It's like they're definitely trying to make it fun as both a single player game and a multiplayer game, and I think there's possibility in that. Like, there's some elements I feel like almost work better in single player, at least I assume they would, such as when you combine all 4 of your friends, and some that I feel like, of course, basically the rest of the game might be more fun in multiplayer as you're combining powers, seeing what you're doing, wailing on enemies, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, once again, I think that outside of, like, the friends sections, I think the majority is way better constructed in multiplayer. There's not to say there's a point to it in single player, there's just less to do for you, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say that makes sense. And going back to the abilities a bit, we got 4 brand new ones: Festival, Staff, Artist, and Spider. And I enjoyed them all. Festival is probably the least interesting because it's just another screen clearing attack. Which I found a little odd considering we already have Crash and Mike. But I like the fact that you're dancing. It's just a little fun thing to do. But the addition of Artist, Spider, and Staff, I feel like they go in very naturally, feel very fun. And I personally love Staff the most. It is so much fun to use.
Yeah, Staff has also the most variety when it comes to combining other elements. I would say that Spider and Artist are lesser in that regard, especially Artist. Artist is only limited to combining with rock and only adds a little bit of paint to the rocks, really. But outside of that, I think that it's a bit hard to control Artist. You actually have to get hanged to it to do up and down very quick movements to make a statue or make a painting. While the rest of it is just really basic attacks with just the paintbrush. So I think it's a little uneven in how it presents itself, but I think Spider is a lot of fun just throwing the web there and making the enemies into balls and just throwing them away. That's actually really, really hilarious.
Yeah, Spider is a great trap ability. Like, they'll walk into it, but you can also just send it forward and capture them in all ways. Like, if you want to have a nice quick way of clearing out smaller enemies, Spider is definitely one of the best.
Right.
Staff, though, it's basically like you just send out the pole and do some major damage, quick hits, jumping all around. I love its down-up attack where you just send it flying and spinning in the air. It's really satisfying and so good against bosses.
Right. It's also... I also experienced how it is to play as the various abilities on their own, except outside of Kirby. And I think that it's just ridiculous to be able to play as the chef.
Kawasaki.
Kawasaki. That actually is still a screen clearing attack as Kirby, but when you turn it into an ally, you can actually cook like recipes to heal all of your allies. He can actually attack with frying pans. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Like, I couldn't see the difference. Like, I knew he was attacking and helping out when I had him as an ally, but I never got to play as him by himself, which I would like to try out. Just because it's Kawasaki. It's this screen clearing attack that all of a sudden has a moveset now, which is kind of cool. It's kind of like how Sleep got its own set of abilities in Battle Royale. And every time I see Sleep now, it's like, man, I wish I could actually have a moveset with that. Have just fall down and sleep, but slap an enemy with a pillow.
What I'm most impressed by is how different all the abilities move. Like, ESP or Nesp, as the actual enemy is called, who becomes your ally. He actually has a really floaty jump. Once you double jump, he can float in the air for quite a while, and then you can move his attack, so you can kind of move out of the way of enemies and destroy them all with your ESP attack, which is really, really helpful.
Yeah, I like how they definitely made sure to make all of the allies feel different and unique to their powers. And like you can tell, there's just been a lot of effort put into this game as far as the actual multiple characters and all the different abilities and how they combine. Like it's of course the combining is nowhere near the level of Kirby 64, but I don't think they could do that level when Kirby 64 only had 7 base powers, and we're looking at close to 30 here.
Yeah, I also think it's a lot more fun than say what you did in Return to Dreamland, where you played as different Kirbys from the get-go, or different allies. But here it feels more diverse because once again, every single one of those abilities controls very differently, so you're not very sure what you're gonna get.
Well, any other thoughts on Kirby Star Allies? I don't want to give too much away since we both have reviews to write, and just want to get our quick thoughts out there about what we're thinking so far about Star Allies. But any other things that you wanted to say about the game?
I would love to go more in depth about the boss and anything, but I don't think I really should.
Yeah.
Even though we are allowed to talk a bunch about them, but it's better to leave some things unsaid. The only thing I can add, I would say, is that I did play the 2 minigames we are allowed to talk about.
Oh, right.
Both of them are kind of throwaway. One of them is basically you hit an asteroid with your baseball bat and throw it back. So it's basically some sort of home run contest. And the other minigame sees you swinging the Joy-Con with a strap attached, obviously, because safety comes first. And using the stick left and right to get out of the way of obstacles. And both of them just have 3 stages, which you can play up to 4 players. I was done with it in say max 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
They didn't have. That felt less than what the 3DS minigames had to offer, and that's sadly saying a lot.
Yeah, it feels more like a callback to the Superstar type minigames where the Megaton Punch and the Samurai Kirby type stuff. Just little things there to show off the multiplayer abilities and what you can do with those. And I do want to note with the Axe one that you can choose to press a button rather than having to swing the Joy-Con itself. That's how I did it, and and still have fun. I got a little bit more value out of the axe cut, the chopping wood minigame rather than the home run game. You can see where it goes from, but the home run minigame is definitely trying to channel Megaton Punch with how you do the inputs and setting power, setting accuracy and whatnot. But it's not as instantly fun as that game was. It's still entertaining on its own, but I don't know. They don't quite match that simple fun of the Superstar games. And granted, I didn't play those for a ton, but they are quick enough that you could just boot it up with your friend and just have some quick samurai matches or Megaton Pun matches and seeing how it all goes. But I agree with you. I didn't spend a lot of time with them. Alright, well I think that covers it for our Kirby Star Allies discussion, so thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain, and of course make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Kirby and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye!